All right, are you ready? We're going to talk about the cow eye dissection. Most of you are going to use this dissection kit, which looks like this. Okay, however, if too many people choose the physical dissection in lieu of the virtual dissection, some of you won't get the whole kit. So let me talk supplies. All right, supplies. Are you ready? No matter if you're using the kit or not, these are supplies that are not included. So goggles, and remember I have this type of goggle, okay, that you're going to wear like this, or there's this type of goggle. So if you have glasses, these are an easier type of goggle. Obviously, they fit over your glasses easier, and then you're going to tighten the strap on the side, okay? Gloves, okay, it may have a different color or whatever, but gloves, and there are a few sizes, so choose the size that is most appropriate for your hands. Okay, what else? I have cleaning wipes. So this big bucket of wipes right here is what I want you using to clean off the instruments after we use them. All right, soap and water, and obviously that's in the back of the room, and then lab apron. Okay, so right here. So those are hanging on the back door in the room. They go over your head like this, okay, and then tied. This is not as essential for this dissection. The hearts were a little bit juicy. The eyes aren't as much, but if you have any concerns about getting it on your clothing, please wear the apron, okay? So within the dissection kit, or in the front of the room are these supplies, okay? So inside the dissection kit, let me just show you the supplies that you will have. You will have a cow eye. Now, if you are not getting it from the box, you're going to get it from me. And then you're going to have a bag of supplies that includes a hand lens, a probe, ruler, forceps, that's tweezers, scissors, some hand wipes, also a tray. Okay, there's the instructions inside here as well as an additional storage bag. Okay, so if you're getting a box, all of that is inside of there. Okay, if you are not using the kit that comes in a box, you need the same supplies. So you're just going to have to go up in the front of the room and get them. So you're going to get the instructions. You're going to get the cow eye. So Mrs. Jenkins is going to grab you one from a bucket. Okay. Then you do need the hand lens, magnifying glass. You need the probe, ruler, forceps, scissors, hand wipes, a tray or plate, whatever is available, and then a storage bag. So the supplies are basically the same. Again, if too many groups choose the physical dissection, we will have to kind of make do with the supplies this way. Okay, so when there are 10 minutes left on day one, you're going to be told to clean up and you have to return the materials. So what you're going to need to do, and I will include a video immediately after this demonstrating this, okay? So you're going to need to put in the larger bag that Mrs. Jenkins gives you, you're going to need to put the eye, the tray, all of the instruments that you have used inside that big bag and put it inside this box, okay? Now, if you don't have a box to put it inside of, you're just going to leave it inside the storage bag, and that's fine. But no matter what, you're going to make sure it is sealed up nice and tightly, okay? So again, the very next thing you will see is a demonstration of this so that you understand exactly what's expected when I say there are 10 minutes left on day one. This is what you need to do, okay? Okay, so we're just going to pretend this is the point on day one where we stopped, okay? So what we are going to do at this point, whatever eye I have and whatever tissue, okay? I'm going to take all of the eye parts, all of the eye tissue. So if I have some pieces on here, I'm going to pick those up, put everything inside this one bag that the eye came out of. Okay. Then I am going to take this whole thing with all of my tools, the probe, the hand lens, the ruler, the tongs, the whole thing, okay? And I'm going to put it inside of this bag, okay, that I had my name and class period on with my table part. Okay, so I'm going to put it inside this bag, seal this up, close it up like this, okay, and that's it. If you have hand wipes left, you're not putting those inside there, okay? So you're going to do this. All right, now if you had a box, you are going to take your printed directions, put them inside, and take this whole thing and put it inside. Close up the box and put it on the shelf. If you don't have a box, you're just going to take this as it is and put this on the shelf, okay? So if you have a box, you're going to do this, close it up. This part, which if you had a box, you have this piece that the eye was in, you are going to throw this out, okay? You're going to throw out your gloves, but that is all you should be throwing out at this point, nothing else, okay? And then the box, which, you know, I have my name and class period. It's going to go on the shelf in the back with the names visible, okay? So I don't want to hide the names, okay? So it's easy to find. This is the only thing that gets thrown out at this point, this bag, that's it. And the gloves that me as the dissecting partner wore, this I'm going to take to the garbage. This is going to go on the shelf in the back of the room. And that's it. We are ready for the second day of dissection. Don't forget, when I'm finishing on day one, getting ready for day two, also when I'm done at the end, I'm going to take off, if I used a lab apron, I'm going to take it off. If anything spilled on the lab apron, I'm going to wipe it off before I go hang it up. I'm going to take my goggles off and go put them into the goggle cabinet at the front of the room so they can be cleaned before the next class. Okay, so that's part of the cleanup. You need to make sure that is done. Your area is done. There's no mess. Okay, so let's go through the dissection. Are you ready? We're kind of going to go step by step, so there should be no questions. Okay, before beginning, you are going to copy this chart on a blank sheet of paper, okay, like this. And I'm going to demonstrate that in a second, but you need to do this before you start because you will record some measurements and then you'll use it at the end, okay? Okay, so on this piece of paper, I want to make an exact replica of the chart. Well, exact as you can be. So I'm going to draw a line down the middle. Now, if you want to be more exact, you could fold it down the middle. And I'm going to need to divide this into 6 sections. So if I divide it in half first, so I have quarters, and then I'm going to need this into thirds, and then this into thirds. So that's kind of the easiest way to do it. Again, it does not need to be exact. Now, if this is too messy and you want to separate this into 2 sheets of paper, that's totally fine, okay? But these are the things you need. Then you're going to need to label this external fat and muscle. This is cornea. This is iris and pupil. Retina, choroid, external eye measurements. Okay, and then you need the same thing down labeled on this side. So starting at the top with vitreous humor. Okay, but you can exactly see what you need to include. So this is just me modeling. For external eye, you're going to have to do before cutting all that stuff off and then after cutting. Okay, So just as a side note, you will need two separate things there. So during the dissection, for most of it, the only thing you're going to be putting information in is this bottom section. When you are all done with everything, okay, you're going to take some of the external fat and muscle, put it here, some of the vitreous humor, put it here, the cornea here, okay, and so on, and then take a picture. So if you have separated it into two sheets of paper, totally fine, but you're going to need to take a picture of both. You only need one of these for you and your partner because you're only doing one dissection. So you need one of these sheets per partner, and both of you are going to have to submit the same picture. So make sure that you do take that. Okay, there you go. Okay, what you're going to do is get a box. Now, if you're not working with a box, obviously you're not going to get one, but everyone, no matter what, is going to get one of these large bags, and you're also going to get a Sharpie. Okay, everyone puts their names on their bag. So we'll say that it's Mrs. Jenkins and Ms. Hackrell. So you need your name and your partner's name, and then your class period. So we'll say class period 2. Okay, whatever your class period is, you're going to write it on the bag. So everyone does this no matter what. If you're using a box, so it's until we kind of run out of them, then on the side, so not on this side, okay, on one of the narrow sides, this one is preferable. See how much blank space? I am going to do the same thing. Put my name, my partner's name, and my class period. Okay, so like that. So do you see, again, it is on the narrow end, not this side where it says Carolina Kits, not this side. So one of the other sides. So this one is the one I put it on. So that's what you're going to do. And then you are going to return the Sharpie. We are done with the Sharpie. All right, so you're going to return the Sharpie. You have your name written on the side of the box. If you have a box, most of you will. And you're going to have your name and class period on the bag. Everyone will have that no matter what. All right, so you're going to decide who's going to do the dissecting. That person needs gloves. And again, there are different size gloves, so get the size of glove that is appropriate for your hands. So the person doing the dissecting gets gloves. What is the person who isn't doing the dissecting? Well, they're going to handle the instructions. So using a laptop, pulling up the video, looking at printed directions. So only the person doing the dissecting needs the gloves. The other partner should be prepared with their laptop or a phone to have the video and should have printed directions. Okay, now you need to get goggles for both partners, and then you actually need to put them on your eyes. Okay, both partners need goggles and you have to actually wear them. Okay, so get the kind of goggles that are more comfortable for you and put those goggles on your face. Both partners, until you are cleaned up and done cleaning up, must have goggles on. Okay, not like this, on your eyes. Okay. Okay, you're going to get a lab apron if you want. So these are located again in the back of the room on the back door. If you want to wear the lab apron, you're going to put it over your head. You're going to take it like this. Now, you don't necessarily have to tie it because really you should be seated during this experiment. But if you want to tie it in the back, I suggest tying it loosely. Okay, have your partner help with that. Just do a loose tie. Okay, wear the apron if you want. Okay. At the end, if you have worn the apron, you're going to just use a wipe and wipe it off before returning it. Okay, you're not going to return it if you spilled something on it without wiping it off first. Okay, remember we already have this. You're going to open up your box and take out the supplies. So you're going to have this. There is a pile in the back where you're going to put these, because this is good bubble wrap. We could save this. Okay. And then you're going to remove the supplies. So you're going to take out the eye,
take out the tools, take out the tray. This bag we don't need because we're using the other bag instead. So there is a pile. You're going to return that to the pile just like the bubble sheet. And you could take out these two directions and then close up the box. All right, so what should we have? We should have these directions. Okay, we should have the eye, and then we should have the tools. So what tools should we have? We could take all of these out. Okay, so we have some hand wipes. Okay, we have a ruler, we have forceps or tongs, we have a hand lens, we have a wooden probe, and we have scissors. Okay, so there are all our supplies. So we have taken them all out of the box. Okay, if you are not using the box, what you're going to need is a tray of some sort. Okay, so whether it's a tray or a plate, you're going to get that. Okay, you're going to get forceps. You are going to get a probe, but it's most likely a metal probe, not a wooden probe. You're going to get scissors, a hand lens, and a ruler. Okay, that is what you are going to get, as well as some printed directions. Okay, but this is what we have if you are not using the box. Okay, so you still need these supplies. Okay, so remember, the person who is not doing the dissecting should be handling the supplies. So these eye dissection instructions, which are optional, not needed. You do have a printed directions from Mrs. Jenkins, plus you have virtual directions as well, plus this video, which is going to be the most helpful. So you're going to have this tray, and at this point you need the scissors. Okay, once you have used a tool, you're going to leave it on the tray, okay, so you don't have it on the table at all. All right, so at this point, remember, the person who is doing the dissecting should be wearing gloves. So I'm going to put those on now. The person who is handling the directions, whether it's the video or printed directions, they are going to worry about that stuff. I am going to have gloves on. The person who is working with me will not. So I have my scissors here, and then I have the eye. Now, at this point, if you do not have a box, you're going to bring this tray over to Mrs. Jenkins, and she's going to reach into the bucket and give you an eyeball. Okay? Your tray is going to be a different color, though. All right? So if you are using the materials from a box, at this point, you are going to open this up. This bag I will save, okay? And now I have to use the scissors and open this up, okay? So I want to cut kind of close to the eye here, so I'm just going to use these scissors, okay? And cut across, all right, to open it up. All right, notice that I use the scissors. Once I've used the tool, they're going to stay on the tray, okay? And then I am going to take the eye out, okay? This one is a little dried out, so if yours looks a little bit like this, kind of in rough shape, I may have to replace it with one of the eyes from the bucket. So let me go grab one from the bucket and show you what I mean, okay? All right, so you can see this is the one that I took out. It looks a little bit dried out. Now I can still use this, and I'm actually going to use both just to show you the difference, okay? This is the one that I just took out of the bucket, which you can tell looks a little bit more preserved just because it's been kept more moist. This one clearly is more dried out. Okay, so as I continue, I'm going to use both just to show you that you are still able to use it, but I just want you to see the difference. Okay, so there you have it. So this would be the eye from the bucket. Again, it's going to be a little bit wetter. This is the one from the kit. Now it may or may not look as dried out as this one. It just depends, okay? But we're still gonna open up the kits and see what we can salvage from them. All right, so that's where we are up till now. Okay, at this point, we're just gonna pretend this is where I'm going from day 2, just so that you see what I would do at that point. Again, these are the materials that my partner will hold. There's also a digital copy of those and an image guide and a digital printed guide from Mrs. Jenkins. So if you are on day 2, you're gonna take this out of the bag, okay? And again, the eye should be inside of an additional bag, okay? So you're going to take that out. Okay. Now, remember, this was the more moist one that I got from the bucket. This was the one that came out of the bag. That was in the box. All right. So this one obviously is in not as great of shape, mostly because the moisture has not been maintained. Okay. In this one, the moisture has been maintained, so this is going to be a little bit easier to do the dissection. All right, so at this point, what you are just doing is looking at the outside, feeling, looking, observing. What do you see? Okay, I see some like fatty tissue. I see tissue that looks more like muscle. I see blood vessels. Okay, so have a look at the exterior of the eye. What do you think this might be? Okay, so have a look and, you know, just kind of investigate. How does it feel? Does it feel hard? Does it feel soft? And again, I do not recommend trying to perform the dissection on this hardened eye. What I'm going to do actually is just put this eye inside the bucket and see if I can kind of rejuvenate it. All right, so I'm going to set this one inside of here for now. All right, and we are going to focus on this one, which is going to be better for our purposes. So at this point, you should have been observing the external parts of the eye. Okay, at this point, we are going to take some measurements. All right. So I'm going to measure, and I should be using centimeters, quite frankly. So this is inches, I should be using centimeters. And I'm kind of going to measure from the longest part across, all right? And I'll record that measurement. Then I'm going to measure the longest bit I see in length. Okay, I'm just getting kind of a rough estimate before I do any additional dissecting. All right, so just length and width like that. Okay, now here's where some big work comes in with the eye. So I'm gonna need the scissors, and what I want to do is cut off all of this external tissue. Okay, I want to get a much better view of the eye. All right. Now, be careful as you're cutting so that you do not cut your fingers, okay? So I want to remove all of this extra tissue from the eye so that I can get a better view, all right? So I've got lots of it on here, all right? The only thing that I want to be careful of, okay, is coming out of the back of the eye, okay? You can see it right here. Is this thick? See this? I'll try and point to it right here. This thick piece right here, that's the optic nerve. And so I'm going to want to try to preserve that, but I want to cut off pretty much all this extra tissue. So you can see there are lots of muscles around the eye, which allows us to move our eyes in many, many, many directions. Okay. In addition, there's lots of fat. So this tissue right here that I'm cutting right now, that is assuredly fat. And that's to protect and cushion our eye within the eye socket itself, okay, which is important. So we have a lot of muscles to help move the eye, but we also have a lot of fat for protection, So I'm going to see muscle, I'm going to see, you know, some connective type tissue, and I want to cut off as much of it as I can to kind of just get a better view of the eye itself. Okay, so the more that you cut off and trim, the better. All right, it's going to allow you to see the most. Again, do you see this right here? That thick band right there, that is the optic nerve. So that's one thing I definitely do not want to cut off. I do want to preserve that. All right, so I'm trimming all of this around here to get a nice view of the eye. Okay, so this is pretty good. All right, so I have a lot of this tissue trimmed off, so I'm in a good place to continue. What I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to need a piece of this for my chart, okay? But to get this out of the way, this bag, which yours will not have an additional eye in it, mine just happens to right now. I'm going to put these extra pieces to get them out of the way. So now when I'm working with the dissection, I have a little bit more room to navigate. All right, so I've trimmed the eye. Here's the optic nerve. And then we're going to get to more of the dissection. Okay, now that I have all of this trimmed again, I'm going to use centimeters, and I'm going to measure the length and width of my eye again, and I'm going to record them. Here, remember, is where I'm recording them. On this paper that I have, the person who should be recording those is the person not doing the dissection, right? Because the person doing the dissection is wearing gloves and is handling this material. So the person who should be writing is the partner who is not dissecting, okay? All right, now it is time to cut the eye in half. So what I want to do, this is the cornea, okay? That is where light is going to pass through. This white part, which I can kind of see, let me just get the probe and show you. So this here is my cornea. This right here, this would be the sclera. That's the white of my eye. It's hard to see the colored part of the eye through here right now because it's cloudy from the preserving. And then remember this thick band, this is the nerve, that is the optic nerve coming out the back here. All right, what I'm going to want to do is cut about halfway, all right, between the optic nerve and the cornea. So right about here, okay? A rough estimate, again, you don't have to measure, and I'm gonna kind of need to get in there with my scissors and begin the process. And as long as I have removed most of the tissue, okay, I will eventually be able to get in there. So it might take a minute, you can see. Okay, finally, I was able to kind of get through. All right, now then once I'm through, I'm going to kind of try to stay near the edge and not puncture all the way through the best I can, okay? So I'm just trying to cut open this eye in half. All right, this is kind of, I guess, aside from trimming all that stuff from the outside, this is definitely the toughest part of the dissection, getting this eye actually cut in half. All right, so there we go, almost. Okay, there we go. All right, which is fine how it came. All right, so there we go. I have my eye in half, just like this. That's exactly what it should look like at this point. This most likely has moved, but we're going to talk about what that is shortly. Okay, so this is perfect, exactly how it is. I have the back half of my eye with the optic nerve, the front half of my eye with the cornea on the other side, and then we're going to move on. Okay, what we're going to look at first is this. See this? This jelly-like stuff right here, that's the vitreous humor. So it's going to kind of come out a little watery, a little jelly-like. This is the vitreous humor. It kind of fills the space between our eye and helps keep the shape of our eye. So there you can see there's a little chunk of it. So I'm going to kind of clear the vitreous humor out. Again, on that chart, I'm going to need to have a piece of it in there. All right, so I'm just going to kind of clear it out at this point. So that's the vitreous humor. So you could see it's pretty watery, but it's not, you know, exactly water-like, because it does have a little bit of like a jelly-like consistency to it in some parts. And again, I'm going to need a piece of this on that chart. Okay, that is the vitreous humor. All right, now that we remove the vitreous humor, most of it from here, you can see this structure right here. This is the lens. Okay, so the easiest way to get this out, ready, I'm going to kind of flip, push this eye, push it, kind of flip it inside out. Okay, and then you see right here, there is the lens. That's kind of the easiest way to get it out. Do you see what I did? I just flipped that inside out. Okay, so here is the lens. Now, if this were my lens of my eye, it would be clear, like this magnifying glass clear, but this is very opaque right now because it's in a preserved eye. And what you're going to do now, again, in centimeters, is measure the lens, and that's going to be recorded on the chart. So if you feel this, this is really hard, okay? So think about it like, you know, more glass-like, okay, in your eye. All right, so again, examine the lens. This would be, here's the cornea that you can kind of sort of see through. And the light would go through the cornea, through the lens, okay, and the lens is going to focus it on the back of my retina, okay. So the lens is going to, there are muscles on either side of the lens that are going to change the shape. So although you think about it like glass, it's not entirely solid like that, it is flexible. So I can make it get wider or more narrow to focus the light on the back of my eye on the retina, okay. So if this were not all cloudy, we would be able to see through it and see the job of it. So it does feel a little bit more firmer though than the other tissue. Okay, so that is the lens. Okay, so remember how we flipped this inside out? This right here, this clear, well, kind of cloudy now because of the preserving process. This is the cornea. We can see it from the back side right here. Okay, that is the cornea. That is like the clear covering over our eye that protects it, but does allow light to pass through, okay, the cornea. Okay, the sclera, again, is the white part of our eye. Remember, we flipped this inside out, so it's nothing that's inside here, okay? It is going to be around the outside of the eye, okay, underneath all this connective tissue and fat and stuff like that that we took off. So it's going to be the white of the eye, all right, that is on this side, okay, not on the inside of the eye, the outside of the eye, at the edge of the cornea. At the edge of where the cornea is, you'll see the sclera. The sclera is the white of your eye. Okay, now the iris. The iris is the colored part of your eye. So whether your eyes are blue or green or brown, and it is has some muscles in it that are going to control the size of the pupil. So do you see this space right here? This space is the pupil. So I want to remove this. Okay, so you see right here, if I have a piece of it right here, I can try to get this off as cleanly as I can. All right. So you see I'm kind of pulling it. There we go. All right. Pulling it like this. Okay. Pulling it around and pulling it off. So look at that. This is the iris. This gives the colored part of your eye. And then, oops, had some vitreous humor on there. It has the pupil, the space for light to go through, and there are muscles here that are going to control the size of this pupil. So when it's really bright out, I'm going to have a small space, and when it's dark out, I'm going to have a big space. So this is the iris, okay, the colored part of your eye, and this opening is the pupil. Okay, before I show you the blind spot, let's do a quick recap. So I'm going to flip this back inside out, okay? So this is the cornea. That's where light is going to pass through, and then it would hit the lens, because remember the lens was back here. But it's going to pass through the cornea, through the pupil, through the lens, and then back to the retina. So that's how the light is going to go. And this part around here, that's the sclera, the whites of the eye. What we removed right here was the iris with the pupil in the center. Remember, the iris is the colored part of your eye, and it contains muscles to control the size of the pupil. In bright light, the pupil is narrow. In dim light, the pupil is wide. Okay? The cornea and the lens are normally clear, okay, but because this is preserved, they're cloudy. And this liquidy stuff we had, that was the vitreous humor. All right? So now, onto the back of the eye, and we're going to locate the blind spot. So this tissue right here, which most likely got moved when you were opening the eye. This thin tissue is the retina, okay? Now, the retina is attached at the back of the eye at a specific point. So do you see as I'm trying to tug it right here, it attaches right there? That leads to this, the optic nerve, okay? So this spot right here, the retina has all these receptors on it that pick up information about what we're seeing. But right here, where it attaches at the back of your eye and forms the optic nerve, we're blind right there. That's the blind spot. So you can't see something that would be in your visual field that would be processed there because there are no receptors. Okay, so that is our blind spot. Okay, so again, the optic nerve, here's where the retina attaches at the blind spot. Okay, and I'm going to remove the retina. I'm just going to kind of pull it off. So see, there's the retina. I'm going to set that aside because I'll need it. Where it attached right there, that was the blind spot. Okay, so there we go. I removed the retina. Where the retina was attached right there, that is the blind spot. Okay, next, so you see this this black tissue, which is kind of peeling up right here. Okay, this is going to be underneath some of this. All right, so this black tissue that you see, this is the choroid. All right, and it's going to have blood vessels to provide nourishment for the eye. Okay, but this shimmery part, okay, so let's see if we can get this off first. Okay, now I might kind of tug at it. Here we go. This shimmery part right here. This is what I'm pulling off right now. Okay, this is the tapetum lucidum. We don't have this in our eye. This helps to improve vision at night, but it's why cows have it. Like if lights shine at their eyes appear green. Okay, same with like cats, but it helps to this iridescent nature of it. It helps to create better vision at night. So there we have, which we're taking off, that's the tapetum lucidum. Then we're going to see this choroid underneath, which will be the next thing that we'll look at. Okay, so we have all of these parts of our eye, and then we have this right here, this choroid underneath here, which is some of the contains some of the blood vessels to the back of the eye. So you might not be able to, that was a piece of the retina, to remove all of it. So I'm going to kind of try to scrape at it a little bit, see if I can get a corner. If not, what I'm going to want to use, you see how I have some on here, or I could simply place it like this. This indicates here is where that choroid is, okay? This, which contains some of the blood vessels. Here I kind of can grab a piece of it maybe. It's very thin because we're mostly talking about blood vessels. So I might be able to, yeah, I might be able to with some scissors grab this piece, okay? So that I could use this piece on my chart. Yeah, so if you work at it, you're going to be able to get a single piece. If you truly have trouble, you can leave it like this on your chart, okay? But that is the last thing, the choroid. So if we run through them all, we have the cornea with the sclera, the lens, the iris with the pupil, the tapetum lucidum, the retina, the vitreous humor, and here we have the choroid. Back behind here, we have the optic nerve, and then we have this fat, see here, part of the choroid right there on my pointer, okay, which could be used. And then right here we have the fatty muscle tissue that was left around the outside of the eye. Okay, so what you're going to do, so you have this chart, okay, and what you're going to do is put all of the things on this chart where they belong. At the bottom right here, you should have these measurements. So on this paper, so for example, this is the tapetum lucidum. So I'm going to take that and put that right here. Okay. I'm going to do the same thing for all of the other things. This is the iris and the pupil. Okay. This is the lens. Oop, not that. That's vitreous humor. There we go. All right, so you're going to put all of the things on here where they belong, and then you are going to take a picture. Again, you are not taking individual pictures. This is one picture for myself and my partner, and then I'm going to submit those pictures. Now, if I had spread this out onto 2 sheets because that was easier, I would need 2 pictures, but I only need more than 1 picture if I have a second sheet. You should be able to get all of the in the same photograph. If you take the top half and the bottom half, or you had it on 2 separate sheets, you would need multiple pictures. But this is kind of your last setup. Now for the vitreous humor, I recommend just getting one of, see, there we go, one of those little jelly-like bits to put on there for the vitreous humor. You should be able to read the words and see all the items in each box, okay? Okay, let me show you how to clean up. So I had already put in all these extra pieces of what I cut off from the outside of the eye. I would need some of this, okay, like here's a piece, for example, that would go here, right? But I don't need all of that, okay, I just need 1 piece. What I'm going to do now to clean up is take all of the pieces off of this paper, okay, and I'm going to take everything that I had, all of the pieces, I'm going to put them inside this bag, and I'm going to kind of fold it up, and then I'm going to seal it. Then I'm going to get this bag that I had, I'm going to put the eye in there. Now this paper is gross now, so the paper goes in here, okay? What else goes in here? Well, the tray. Now I have all these instruments, okay? They don't go in here. They need to be cleaned, okay? Remember those wipes that I showed you, the chem wipes? You're going to use those to clean off all the instruments. But this tray absolutely goes inside of this bag, okay? So I have the tray, I have the bag with the eye, I have the paper that I used. Those are the only things that go in here. This gets sealed up, and then it gets put in the back of the room in the box, okay? And then I'll throw that out all at once. All of these tools, they all need to get, the wooden probe. We don't need to save the wooden probe. The wooden probe should go in here, okay? Sealed up. These tools though, the ruler, the scissors, the forceps, and the hand lens. If you didn't use the hand lens, that's fine. Take it out of the plastic, and you're going to clean all of these and put them in the right spot in the front of the room. They each have their own container. Put them in the right container, okay? This goes in the box in the back of the room. These get cleaned and put in the right container. This box gets recycled, okay? And that's it. You are done with cleanup. Take your gloves off, throw those out, wipe off your lab apron if you need to, return it, take your goggles off, put them in the cabinet. If you have questions about anything else, ask your teacher, okay? But hopefully this was a good learning experience.
And there you go. That is the cow eye dissection. I really hope that you learned something.